Earlier on in the year, we drove the brand new Audi A7. And first things first, we absolutely loved it. From the way the car drives to its styling, the whole experience was quite sublime. But we couldn't help wonder, why on earth did Audi not give us a diesel variant? In that segment, we would think that buyers would be more inclined towards a diesel. As we know, diesels have more stamina. They're there for the long haul, much like the horses behind me. Ironically, diesels aren't also about the horsepower, but rather more about torque. So for those of you who are interested in a diesel, Audi now has an answer. Well, the same way the new Audi A7 is only offered with petrol engines, the brand new Audi A6 that you see in front of you here only comes with diesel variants, which tells us that Audi South Africa has clearly defined the target market for this car. And that is why we have brought you to this beautiful country estate in Steyn City, where the new Audi A6 is in its natural habitat. For quite a while, Audi was criticized for their styling. Many people felt like their cars looked the same. It felt like they were going around and around and around with the same design. But since Audi's design resurgence, we've seen more styling and flair come into their new products. So when Audi designed this model, they needed to keep to the ethos of what an A6 stands for. And personally, I like the design of this car. Yes, you can see that it's a new Audi, but it still doesn't jump in your face. It's still quite subtle and sophisticated. So today we are in the entry-level model of the Audi A6. I know it sounds weird to say entry-level with a car like this, and you saw from the outside, there's nothing entry-level about it. So in the 40 TDI, we have got a 2-litre diesel engine producing 140 kilowatts and 400 Newton meters. As we mentioned earlier, diesels have never been big on power. It's always been about torque, and 400 Newton meters in a car such as this is more than adequate. In the 45 TDI, however, you gain an extra 40 kilowatts and 200 Newton meters, giving you power figures of 183 kilowatts and 600 newts. It's only when you're in a real rush where you wish you just had that extra 200 Newton meters that you'd get in the 45 TDI. So for those of you who didn't know, the Audi A6 and the Audi A7 are brother and sister cars. So they share the same platform, but it's rather more about the aesthetic between the two of them. But it's quite interesting. Having driven the A7 quite recently and being in this car now, I do get a different sense of personality between both cars. This definitely feels like the more calmer version of the Audi A7. I don't feel the need to rush around, I don't feel the need to prove a point, and that is exactly what an Audi A6 has always been about. Simply looking good, getting to work, and staying sophisticated. So in terms of ride quality, it's quite interesting being in this car now because recently I've driven many performance vehicles. And the problem we always face with those cars is that when they're in their comfort setting, they are still rock hard. And it's quite the opposite in this vehicle. Even in dynamic mode, this car is so softly sprung. You could literally go on a 1,000-kilometer journey and not feel any issues in this car. So it's no secret that the Audi A6 has always been more of a mature car. And that hasn't changed in this vehicle. Yes, it does look modern and the interior is gorgeous, but the Audi A6 ethos still remains in this vehicle. It still feels like a car for a business executive. What I do love is that even though this car does appeal to a more older person, it's still chock full with amazing technology.
The A6 is a much larger vehicle than the car it replaces. And of course, we see the benefits of that on the inside with an additional 21 millimeters of legroom. Most of the functions are controlled through Audi's latest MMI touch interface, which gives you 2 large touchscreens and of course the customary virtual cockpit. The simple and clean design, coupled with high levels of build quality and expensive tactile materials, make the A6's interior one of the best in the segment. But if we do have to level some criticism at this interior, it's a bit bland compared to its rivals, and those high gloss finishes attract a lot of unwanted fingerprints.
So in conclusion, the Audi A6 and the A7 share many similarities, but the A6 is quite a departure from the nature of the A7. The A7 is more geared toward a sportier clientele, whereas the A6 is more for a reserved buyer that appreciates understated luxury. Would I buy one? Perhaps in a few years, I'd happily park one in my garage.